250. Please remember to download both the Barn Burner and ZINGOTV apps in their respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. And while you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment because both apps are 100% free. ZINGOTV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, as well as Roku and Roku sticks. And they're also available on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Now, let's get right into the sports wrap for this week, where we begin with week 17 in the NFL. Yes, the final week of the NFL season. And boy, did week 17, it packed a lot of heat this week. I'll tell you, because obviously I had a week 17 fantasy football finals this year. And of course, we took home the trophy this year as what would be expected. But nevertheless, from that, we're going to get right into it here. First game we have on deck is the Minnesota Vikings. They were taking on the Detroit Lions, where we see Minnesota take a 2-point victory over the Detroit Lions. Minnesota ends up finishing their season at 7-9, while Detroit ended up finishing off at 5-11. Kirk Cousins in this game, he ended up going 28 for 40 with 405 total yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Kirk Cousins also did end up getting a rushing touchdown as he ran one in for 1 yard. Alexander Matheson also had 21 carries for 95 rushing yards, and he also had a rushing touchdown, as well as 3 receptions for 50 yards and a receiving touchdown as well. Justin Jefferson, the phenom rookie, also had 9 receptions for 133 yards in the win. Again, Minnesota finishes off their season at 7-9, and the Detroit Lions finish off at 5-11. Now, moving on, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They took on the Atlanta Falcons in week 17. And Tampa Bay, they look like a scary team going into the playoffs. They take this one against the Falcons 44-27. Tom Brady just looked like an MVP out there today. He went 26 for 41 with just scraping under 400 yards with 399. He had 4 passing touchdowns and 1 interception in this game. Ronald Jones II ended up carrying the ball 12 times for 78 total rushing yards and a rushing TD as well. Tampa Bay ends up finishing off their season at 11-5 and have booked their ticket into the postseason going into the wild card week. The Atlanta Falcons, however, are not so lucky as they finish off their season with a 4-12 record. The New England Patriots took on the New York Jets. These are 2 teams as well that will not be competing in the postseason. Very rare for the Patriots to not be there. But New England in this one, Cam Newton with 21 for 30 with 242 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Jets. And even the wide receivers are getting in on the fun as well, as Jacoby Myers went 1 for 1 with a 19-yard touchdown pass in this game. Again, the New England Patriots ended up taking this one 28-14. Sony Michel also made his return to the New England Patriots lineup as he put up 16 carries for 76 rushing yards in the win. The Jets end up finishing off their season at a 2-14 record, and they will have a top 3 pick going into next year's draft. And the New England Patriots end up finishing their season with a 7-9 record. The next game we have on tap is the Buffalo Bills. They took on the Miami Dolphins. Miami needed a win in this one to clinch a playoff spot, but they could not do it, as Miami, with a 10-6 record, will not be making the postseason this year as they lose an ugly one to the Buffalo Bills. Final score in this one was 56-26. Josh Allen just looked incredible out there. He didn't need to throw the ball that much. He went 18 for 25 in passes to attempts. He had 224 total passing yards in this one with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Matt Barkley, the backup quarterback, came in the 4th quarter and went 6 for 13 with 164 total yards with a touchdown and an interception. In this one, again, Buffalo was playing a lot of their backups, as well as Gabriel Davis had 2 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown. And Isaiah McKenzie also had 6 receptions for 65 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns in the win. Buffalo ends up getting the 2nd seed in their division as they end up finishing with a 13-3 record, while Miami again with a 10-6 record to end off the year, and they will not be going on to the postseason. Now, moving on, we have the Cleveland Browns. They were taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Cleveland Browns ended up taking this one, not by much though, as they ended up taking this one 24-22 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baker Mayfield in this one did just enough to get the win as he went 17 for 27 with just under 200 total yards and a passing touchdown in this game. Nick Chubb also had 14 carries with 108 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown in the game. Close game, but these two teams will be going up against each other in the wild card next week, as Cleveland ended up finishing this season off with an 11-5 record, while the Pittsburgh Steelers finished with a 12-4 record. And for the Cleveland Browns, this is going to be their first appearance in the playoffs since 2002, or since I was 3 years old. Now, moving on, we're going to be moving on over to the New York Giants as they took on the Dallas Cowboys. And New York ended up taking this one with a final score of 23-19. Daniel Jones ended up going 17 for 25 with 229 yards with 2 passing touchdowns and an interception. Sterling Shepard had 8 receptions for 112 yards and a receiving touchdown, and he also had 24 rushing yards on 2 carries and a rushing touchdown in this game. New York, sadly, they won their game, but they will not be making the playoffs with the Washington football team winning their game this week. They finished the season off with a 6-10 record, while Dallas also finishes with the same record at 6-10. Now, moving on, we have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cincinnati Bengals in this one. The Bengals obviously have not had Joe Burrow for part of the end of the season due to a torn ACL. And for Baltimore in this one was a pretty easy game for them. Lamar Jackson didn't have to do that much. He went 10 for 18 with 113 total yards, or 113 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns and an interception. Lamar also ran for 97 yards in the win. J.K. Dobbins also had 2 rushing touchdowns off of 13 carries and 160 yards in the win. Baltimore ends up going to 11-5 on the season, and the Cincinnati Bengals end up finishing with a 4-11-1 record. Now, the Indianapolis Colts were taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars in this one, as Indianapolis was able to double them up in this one with a final score of 28-14. For the Indianapolis Colts, Phillip Rivers went 17 for 27 with 164 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Jonathan Taylor also had the game of his life with 30 carries on the rushing side of things with 253 total rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in the win. Indianapolis's record improves to 11-5, while Jacksonville ends up finishing the season off at 1-15 and will have the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft for next season. Now, moving on, we got the Tennessee Titans. They were taking on the Houston Texans in this one. And for the Titans, Ryan Tannehill went 18 for 27 with 216 total yards and a touchdown in this one. And Derrick Henry, very similar to Jonathan Taylor, putting up 30-plus carries with 250 total rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill also finished the day with 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Tennessee Titans, they ended up taking this one 41-38 over Houston. A game-winning field goal was what was needed in order for Tennessee to get the win, but they improved their season record to 11-5 to end it off, and the Houston Texans end up finishing with a 4-12 record. The Arizona Cardinals were taking on the Los Angeles Rams in a division-bound matchup. Arizona needed this win to clinch a playoff spot. They could not do it, though, against John Wolford and the Los Angeles Rams, as the Rams take this one with a final score of 18-7. For the Rams, John Wolford went 22 for 38 with 231 total yards and an interception. And for the team as well. Their only touchdown actually came off of an 84-yard pick play, ran it straight back into the end zone for the touchdown. The final score in this one again was 18-7, and the Rams finish off this season at 10-6, while Arizona finishes with a 500 record at 8-8. The New Orleans Saints were taking on the Carolina Panthers as they were able to make quick and easy work out of Carolina as they win this one 33-7. Drew Brees ended up going 22 for 32 with 201 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. In this one, Emmanuel Sanders also had 63 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown in the win. Again, the New Orleans Saints improved their record this season to 12-4, while Carolina finishes off with a 5-11 record. The Green Bay Packers were taking on the Chicago Bears, and all Green Bay needed to do was win this one, and that's exactly what they did to clinch the bye week. They take this one against the Bears 35-16. Aaron Rodgers was dealing out there, 19 for 24 on catches, 2 attempts, 240 total yards with 4 touchdowns in this game. Aaron Jones also ended up rushing for 42 yards and had a rushing touchdown in the win. Green Bay improves their record to 13-13 and again will have that bye week, while Chicago goes to 8-8 and clinches a playoff spot for the first time in the last few seasons. Moving on, we have the Los Angeles Chargers as they beat the Kansas City Chiefs B team 38-21. Kansas was resting most of their players this week due to the fact that they have already clinched their bye week. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert went 22 for 31 with 302 total yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. Mike Williams finished the game off with 6 receptions, 108 total yards, and a receiving touchdown in the win. The Chargers end up improving their record to end off the year at 7-9, while the Kansas City Chiefs go to 14-2 and clinch that bye week. Moving on, we have the Seattle Seahawks as they took on the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks ended up taking this one only by 3 with a final score of 26-23. Russell Wilson ended up going 20 for 36 with 181 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Chris Carson also ended up rushing for 44 yards in the win. Seattle will be taking on the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card game next week as they finish off their season with a 12-4 record, while the San Francisco 49ers finish off with a 6-10 record. Moving on, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. They're taking on the Denver Broncos in this one, and the Raiders were able to take this one. Very close game, 32-31. Derek Carr went 24 for 38 with 371 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Josh Jacobs rushed for 89 yards in this one and got 2 rushing touchdowns in the win. The Raiders end up finishing off their season at 8-8, while the Broncos end up finishing at 5-11. And the big game that everyone was waiting for, Sunday Night Football, as the Washington football team ended up beating the Philadelphia Eagles 20-14 to clinch themselves their division and a spot in the postseason. Washington in this one, Alex Smith was 22 for 32 with 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. On the receiving end of things, Terry McLaurin had 40 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown in the win. Now, moving on again, the NFL wildcard rounds will be taking place this coming Saturday and this coming Sunday. The Colts are playing the Bills, Rams are playing the Seahawks, Buccaneers are playing Washington football team. Those games are going to be Saturday at 1:05, 4:40, and 8:15 p.m. in that order. And on Sunday, 1:05, the Ravens are going to be taking on the Tennessee Titans. At 4:40, the Chicago Bears will be taking on the New Orleans Saints. And at 8:15 on Sunday, the 10th, the Cleveland Browns will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, moving on, we're going to be going on here with the World Juniors. And as we can see, Canada, we know, has already clinched their spot in the final with their win over Russia today. The question is, who will they be playing, the United States or Finland? Right now in that game, it is currently 1-1 going into the second period. So it's anybody's game at that point, folks. So We will update again at the end of the show what the score is in that World Juniors game, and we will see who Canada will have to play. Now, moving on, we're going to be going on over to the NBA, where we see a lot of games have happened today. First game, the Charlotte Hornets were taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia ended up taking this one pretty easily, 118-101. Philadelphia improves their record to 6-1 on the season, while Charlotte goes to 2-5. For Philadelphia, this game, it was all Tobias Harris in this one, as he put up 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Joel Embiid had a double-double as well with 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. Ben Simmons also chipped in with a double-double with 12 points and 10 rebounds. Moving on, the Orlando Magic beat the Cleveland Cavaliers happily by 20 with a final score of 103-83. Orlando actually improves their record to 5-2 this season, and they've been looking really, really good, especially with their dynamic duo of Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic. Put up a combined 47 points in this one, as they were able to kind of manslaughter Cleveland in this one. Again, they take it 103-83. And the New York Knicks are taking on the Atlanta Hawks. The Knicks win this one barely with a 113-108 victory. Julius Randle has played out of his mind so far to start off this season, near triple-double in this one, as he got 28 points, 17 rebounds, and 9 assists. RJ Barrett also put up 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in the win. Now, moving on, we go on to the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Miami was able to take this one 118-90 as they go back to 500 to start off the season. Bam Adebayo in this one had 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. Kelly Olynyk had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist as well. And Jimmy Butler ended up with 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in the win. And the Toronto Raptors were taking on the Boston Celtics in this one. The Raptors have not had a good start to the season, and it looks like it hasn't continued from here, as they lost this one to the Boston Celtics. Final score on this one, 126-114. For the Celtics, Jason Tatum ended up putting up 40 points along with 6 rebounds and 2 assists. And even Peyton Pritchard, the rookie, ended up putting up 23 points, 2 rebounds, and 8 assists in this one as well, as the Celtics again take this one 126-114. And one of the other scores now currently going on, the Golden State Warriors are taking on the Sacramento Kings. That game, second quarter just started, and Golden State has a commanding 39-21 lead. Milwaukee was taking on the Detroit Pistons in this one, and Milwaukee started off their year at 4-3, but they do take this one with a final of 125-115. Giannis Antetokounmpo in this one put up 43 points along with 9 rebounds and 4 assists. Milwaukee again improves their record to 4-3. And the Indiana Pacers ended up beating the New Orleans Pelicans in overtime, 118-116. For the Pacers, Domantas Sabonis put up 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Oladipo had 25, and Malcolm Brogdon had 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists in the close victory. And our final game of the day for the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks were able to beat the Houston Rockets 113-100. Luka Doncic looks like himself again with 33 points, 16 rebounds, and 11 assists, the triple-double maestro in this one. And Tim Hardaway Jr. had 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists in the win. And that is all for me today on the Sports Wrap. This show can be heard on the Barn Burner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. And you can check out barnburner.ca for all the news. Barn Burner. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it.